Hi guys, it's me an INFP and this is him an ISFJ, and we're going to talk about the differences between assertiveness and turbulent today. If you have ever been on the website 16 Personalities, you may have seen the T or the A next to the 4 letters of your MBTI type. I know that a lot of those in the MBTI community have a problem with 16 Personality website. I don't see it with the disdain that many MBTI enthusiasts do. In my eyes, it's a place to start, not an end. It's a good place for beginners who don't know anything about MBTI to maybe take the test, but it's not a good place for them to stop because it doesn't teach about the functions. It's not perfect, it has some flaws. So go on to learn about the cognitive functions and take some of the beginner insight you got from 16 Personalities with you. Just don't take the test from 16 Personalities and stop there. That's all I have to say. I'm not gonna hate on it, and I'm not gonna say it's like the expert of MBTI, but I do believe it has some things in it that I find useful. So if you want to hate on it, do what you want. But
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah, haters gonna hate. People underestimate how big a difference that assertiveness or turbulence can make to your personality. An INFP who is assertive may look very different from an INFP who is turbulent, even though they share the same MBTI. Whether a person is T or A may even cause confusion about their type. A turbulent thinking type could come off as self-conscious and emotionally volatile, and might even be mistaken for an F type. So I think it's underestimated of how big a difference that being assertive or turbulent can make to your MBTI type. There isn't very much information about it outside of 16 Personalities. So, I'm not here to prove that it's a valid measurement of personality or anything, but looking around at the people around me and myself, I find the information about assertiveness and turbulence to be really insightful. So to put it simply, this is a tool that helps measure emotional stability. 16 Personalities lists it as identity, an eternal sensor to how we react to outside input. It shows us how confident basically we are in our decisions and our abilities. And where we are on the T versus A scale will determine our actions to a degree. So I'm going to give a brief description of assertiveness and then turbulent. I am a turbulent and he is an assertive. And we actually just took a test again today to see how much, it gives you a percentage of how turbulent or assertive you are. I tested about 76%.
I said about 53.
Yeah, so he's a slight assertive, but he still has the traits of it. And I'm pretty turbulent, I'd say. So assertives don't stress easily, and they aren't as hard on themselves as perfectionistic turbulence. They aren't bothered by much, by issues that happen. They tend to feel more confident in various areas of their life and in themselves. They are more even-keeled, more steady, and more self-assured. They don't care as much about self-achievement. They don't push themselves too hard to achieve goals. I don't think we should confuse assertiveness with aggressiveness. The assertive we're talking about here is actually more laid back, I would say.
For sure.
It's not a type A personality. It's not. They don't overthink a lot about things, and what's done is done. And assertives have actually reported better life satisfaction, probably because they don't overthink as much and they can just like enjoy life without worrying too much about like things they don't need to be worrying about. Turbulence, on the other hand, tend to be more self-conscious and unsure of themselves. They struggle with dealing with stress, and they may get stressed more easily. They experience a broad range of emotions and may be more of a roller coaster rather than even keeled. Like the definition of turbulent is like chaotic. So in comparison to assertiveness, turbulence are a bit more chaotic emotionally. They may find it harder to control their emotions. They may be indecisive. They may be more insecure than assertives. But turbulence are more success-driven, and they're perfectionists with goals that they made for themselves. They're big advocates of improvement, and they're always working on themselves. And that's something I find very true for myself. They have trouble being satisfied with what is and feel like they keep needing to like be more, get more from life. They also overanalyze, they think a lot, and they worry. They have a strong internal drive to push themselves to the limit. So now that we've given you a brief description of both assertive and turbulent type, we're going to ask each other some questions and have some discussions about like some real life examples of how being assertive or turbulent affects like our personalities and how we react to things in life. So do you want to go first?
Yeah. This is actually the most that I've delved into assertiveness versus turbulence before. Kind of how she explained, I didn't really think of it much as more of a description of personality. I actually did think it was about, whether you're chaotic or whether you're aggressive, but that's not it at all. Looking into it more since we were, digging into more information about this for notes, it makes a lot more sense. And it kind of related to what I used to think about myself just when I was contemplating my MBTI type, my cognitive functions and all of that, mainly about optimism versus pessimism. I felt like, kind of digressing, but I felt like optimism was kind of wrapped more around assertiveness and turbulence was more around pessimism or chaoticness, expecting the worst to happen. But that's just kind of my own connection there. As far as relating to, I think this kind of goes along with my 53% relating to assertiveness. As far as not caring about outcomes, that's not always the truth. I would say where that relates to me is in work-related outcomes. So I think when I'm on the job, I tend to be more assertive and not really focusing on what happens in the outcome. I'm more focused on just what's happening in the moment. I'm always prepared for the worst case situation. So if it does happen, I'm not really upset with what outcome happens. I'm just thinking about, okay, what's going to happen next? How do we move forward from this? I feel like I do that a lot more on the job than I do in personal life. Because in personal life, I'm more concerned about outcomes with that, relationships, whatever. My ability to handle stress, I would say that's a large portion due, I can handle stress well. A large portion of that is due to because I'm not really concerned as much for the outcome.
Yeah.
Since I don't really care about, well, it's not that I don't care. It's that whatever happens, I know that life is going to go on.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big difference I've noticed between the two of us. Is seeing how we both deal with stress. And I do feel like he deals with stress a lot better. Just because, it says assertives are more resistant to stress. But I feel like it does have something to do with mindset. And I feel like for him, when stressful things happen, it just doesn't bother you as much as it does me. Even things that are kind of big things, when he ran out of data on his phone, right at a point where we were we needed it for something, and we were in a parking lot where we couldn't get admitted to somewhere unless we had data to download tickets off. And then if it was me, I would have been freaking out and stressed. And he was just oh yeah, I ran out of data. Oh, well, whatever. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
No, that's a good explanation of just a comparison of how we are with stress and handling that, and how, like, for that situation, for example, my thought was, instead of thinking about, oh no, I'm out of data, I'm focusing on the outcome, my thought was, okay, where do we go from here? We can go to, a restaurant with free Wi-Fi, and I can download or I can get more data there. I can order it online. So I was just thinking about, it's always about the next step for me. It's not necessarily about staying on that step, I guess, or the outcome in per se, because I'm thinking, that outcome's not the end. There's always a next outcome that we've got to work on. So I guess that's kind of a good explanation. That was a good explanation for that. So we wanted to ask questions to each other?
I don't know. I did want to say something more about how, like, I do worry a lot more than you do, like, in general, like, not just, like, stress situations, but I guess, like, that would be the overthinking part. Like, I think we both can overthink, but, like, in my case, it's just, like, it's worrying thoughts about, like, future things or, like, issues and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think my overthinking, I would relate that more to my TI, trying to internalize, become more efficient. I need to understand how it works, but a lot of times I overthink about it, and I wouldn't say that relates to my, assertiveness necessarily.
But, like, you don't, like, worry as much about things.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it when I'm overthinking. I'm just trying to comprehend it. I think yours is more a worry about
like
the outcome.
Anxious thoughts.
Yeah, about what could happen.
I would like to talk a little more about the part of Turbulence where Turbulence are about self-improvement and being perfectionists and, like, needing to be, like, success-driven. And I feel like that was one of the things that, like, resonated with me most, like, about the Turbulent description, because I relate to that so much. Especially lately, I feel like I've become much more, like, goal-driven. And, like, I feel like I've always been a perfectionist. And, like, Turbulence are, like, pretty hard on themselves in that aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, improvement's, like, really important to me. And I feel like that's how I feel, like, satisfied in life. If, like, I know I'm either, like, taking steps to improve myself or, like, taking steps towards my goals. And, like, even, like, day to day, like, sometimes, like, I don't feel, like, satisfied with the day if I haven't, like, accomplished the goals I wanted to do. Like, that's how I feel like the day has been a success, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that's why I'm so low on the assertiveness, is because I can relate to that perfectionism, wanting it to be a success. Not necessarily for the outcome, though. It's more of, I guess, confidence in myself, knowing that I can do it. So when I fail, I'm thinking myself as a failure. So my success-driven is more of, like, my pride in myself, my confidence.
Like, you want to be confident in something.
Yeah.
Like, that you can do it well.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe why I score a little bit low on the assertiveness, is because I do feel that perfectionism. I don't think that I am, like, when I look back on my day, I guess I don't look at it as my goals adapt as the day goes on. So when things happen, I feel like I can't really control it, how they go, so I just have to alter my goals. So I'm not necessarily,
go with the flow.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily looking at my initial goals at the start of the day, and I'm not disappointed if I don't reach them per se. Is if I adapt them, and then if I reach the adapted goals, I'm still happy. I think that relates to another thing that can relate to. I used to think that was P's versus J's, being going with the flow, but I think you were the one. Did you recently point out to me that SI is a perceiving function, and
FI is a judging function. So in some ways, I can come off as, like, a judger and more, I guess, like, rigid about some things, and, like, SI can be more perceiving and, like, I don't know, like, non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Softer.
Yeah. I think that's just another way that I think assertiveness and turbulence does need to go into the MBTI spectrum, is because it relates to the cognitive functions in that way too.
One question I think we should discuss is, does varying stress levels affect whether you are a turbulent or an assertive? Like, if you're going through a stressful situation, do you become more turbulent versus if you're not feeling that stress, like, do you become assertive?
I'm not one to promote the idea that your MBTI type can change.
Yeah, I
But-
don't believe that either. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But I do think that things like that can cause your assertiveness or turbulence to increase or decrease. Because when I'm under high stress levels, I'm a lot more turbulent. Even though, like I said, I can handle high stress levels, there's a point that I get to that either when I fail and I'm, stressed out on myself, my confidence is low, self-esteem is low, then I start to become turbulent because I'm trying to reach that goal again, because that goal is going to put me back on track. If I succeed, then I'm going to be able to prove to myself I am who I am, and I can become assertive again. But I feel like during that time and point at which I'm questioning myself, can I do this, and is this who I am? I can be turbulent during that.
I could see that, especially since you aren't like very high on the assertive end, and like I'm sure like for like a lot of people, if like some like very stressful or like traumatic thing happened, they might like for a time become more turbulent. Especially like I feel like if other factors are at play, like I feel like assertive people can still have low self-esteem. Like, they're just in general, like, they can be more self-assured and confident, but that doesn't mean they don't also, like, have other, like, struggles. But I know for me, like, I don't think my turbulence changes. Like, I just think I'm turbulent, and, like, I think I could become assertive, but I don't feel like I switch back and forth. Like, that's just the type I am.
Yeah. All right, question number 1. I'm going to combine this. What do you consider to be your worst failure or your biggest success?
Do I have to answer both or just one?
You can answer just one.
I don't know about like my biggest success. Like, I know I feel good like whenever I accomplish like the goals I've written down. I'm not really sure. I guess just like every goal I've accomplished. What about you?
I consider my worst failure to be not pushing myself to go for the full scholarship, like the full ride that I had initially graduating from high school. And now that I'm paying for tuition partially, I'm feeling the effects of that. My slackness, procrastinating, kind of assertiveness, and not really being worried about the outcome of what happens. And like, I'll just get another way. Well, that way would have been easier. All right, how do you encourage yourself to move on from failure?
I feel like regrouping, like giving myself alone time, like if I've been like really disappointed or like had like a blow to the self-esteem or something. And then I guess like I think positive self-talk helps, encouraging yourself or like getting encouragement from somewhere else, even if it's from like songs or like from like a friend or something, and then just like refocusing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I find going towards other goals, maybe easier goals to reach for, smaller goals, achieving those helps. And the biggest thing I've found recently is actually helping other people.
I've heard that's true. That can really help.
I find that I give better advice when I'm trying to help someone else. And then when I listen to myself give someone else advice, I'm like, oh, I should probably follow that too. Do you feel there's ever a point where you can look back on your work and feel accomplished? Like, I've made it. I've done everything.
No. Like, I think we were talking about this the other day, how like I never feel like I've like gotten there where like I'm the best at something and like I have no more to like learn at something specific. Like I feel like there's always more to learn, and like I never feel confident enough that like I've like mastered something.
I think that's where that's the reason I asked this, was more of like, I feel like a good difference between assertiveness and turbulence can be, because there are some points when I look back and I think, all right, that's it. We did it. We're done. And that kind of worries me, because I feel like I'm going to become slack and not accomplish my goals, which I feel like I actually read in one of the articles where turbulence do have more success because they are success driven.
I heard that too, yeah. Well, actually, I read that.
Heard it through your eyes.
Yes. I mean, I feel like even if like you're skeptical about this, you should still check it out, because I feel like it can be really helpful in seeing the different nuances and types. Like I said, like you can be the same MBTI type, but if you're assertive or turbulent, that can really change like a person's reactions and like how they look as a personality. Like I know certain people I know who are turbulent or assertive, and I can see like differences in like how they act. And like I do know like the assertives I've known do have kind of like a chill vibe where it's like everything's fine, like, and I feel like we react differently to things, like to like disturbing events. Like I can think of a specific one where like me and a person who was assertive, and I was like really like upset and angry and like stressed out and like all these like negative emotions, and it, like I get really bugged by things, and I feel like assertives are more able to let it like roll off their back, even if they weren't happy about it. They're just like, well, that stinks, but it's fine, and they just like move on. And I feel like that's probably more healthy, but I don't know where I was going with this. I do think it's important to point out that I feel like both assertives and turbulence have like positive qualities.
Yeah. There's no negative to being turbulent, just as like there's no I won't say there's no negative. The negative is not solely strictly to the turbulence, and the positives is not strictly to the assertives.
Yeah, like I feel like each ones have negatives and positives. And I think if you like read turbulence description, some of their traits may be similar to the neuroticism on the Big Five. And I'm not a big fan of neuroticism on the Big Five for several reasons. One of which is that it's largely considered like a negative trait. And I might make another video about that later explaining. But I feel like in the turbulent description, there are positives and negatives. It's not like a totally negative thing. And the same with assertives. And I feel like both of them can like learn from each other. Like turbulence can learn from assertives to deal with stress in a different way, let things roll off their back more, and be able to enjoy life better by not like overthinking and worrying so much.
I feel like assertives can learn from turbulence and learning to self-improve, not just to become complacent where they are, but understand that there's always a higher level to reach. Because I think someone can become a terrible person if they're just happy with where they are and make excuses for what they're doing being all right. That can become a dangerous, unhealthy place as well.
Yep. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.